Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, how are you, my friend?
Excellent, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great, actually, after a wonderful time yesterday at End Johnnies at 138 Portland Street. I want to give a big shout out to Johnny Karan, who owns End Johnnies, and, of course, Fenway Johnnies as well. What a great host. What a great person. Was really amazed at the memorabilia that he has been able to collect, that he has on his wall there over his years as a bartender, as a bar owner, and also working security at Fenway Park for so many years. Pierre, it was like a sports/music museum as we walked through there.
Oh, just amazing. The stuff that blew me away was the Belichick, a lot of the Belichick stuff, which is right from Bill. You can see from the handwriting and really cool. Like, obviously, Johnny's cultivated so many relationships over the course of his career and his life. It blows you away. You see stuff from Joe Sakic. All of a sudden, he says to me, "Hey, do you know this guy?" And he points his finger at a picture of one of my former assistant coaches, one of my former players who will remain nameless. And he says, "I'll get him on the phone right now." So I haven't talked to this person in probably 25 years. And, Jimmy had just come into the bar when I was talking to him, and I think he was probably wondering, who the heck are you talking to? One of my old assistants and one of my old players. So it was kind of cool to do that. And he's got a beautiful place. That facility is magnificent. I can't wait to get back there. I was texting with Johnny today.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get back there. And, we're going to be there a lot over the next 3 weeks. So it's kind of, well, not kind of, it is exciting.
It is. And, good crowds start to filter in, as we about halfway through our broadcast, because we started early just to kind of give ourselves time so you could get over the games there. But, one thing I love too was, and it wasn't just sports, it like the stuff he had from the history of the neighborhood we were in, which is North Station / West End of Boston. Like that, what was the place called? Martinetti's, I think, where all the athletes would go for their.
Where they go for the clothing?
Yeah, where they used to go back.
That sign was amazing.
That was so cool. Yeah, it really was. Cool. And the staff was great there as well. I want to thank them as well. And thank you to Mike Eruzione for joining us in person.
Was he ever fantastic? I've been getting text messages from people in British Columbia, getting text messages from people in Western Canada, not just BC, but in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Just really cool. Mike made a big impact on that show yesterday. I thought he was really good. Really good.
Yeah, it was too. And it's like you always, who knows how many of those documentaries he's done on the Miracle on Ice, right, Pierre? But what I like about him, and I've seen a lot of them, he's got a different story each time. Like, he gives a different angle or a different perspective. And that's pretty cool to be able to do that, because, how many times can you tell the same story without saying the same thing? But I still learned stuff yesterday, and that's what I loved about it.
No, I agree. You learn a lot. I agree with that. I really wanted to find out what was said on the bus after the game at MSG. A lot of people reported this, that, and the other. We heard it right from the horse's mouth.
Yep.
I had heard something different from Herb, and then I heard it from Mike. And so then you could kind of say, okay, I could see how he would think one thing and the other guy would think another.
Yep.
I remember some of Mike's other teammates on that team, and I don't want to use their names again because I don't think it's appropriate, but they would say one thing about the way Herb was, and then you hear how Mike would talk about Herb, and maybe it was a little different, because Mike was more of the leadership component to that team, and he was older than most of those players. Mike had already played pro hockey really in the minor leagues in Toledo, in the old IHL. So yeah, it was different, but all I can say is I thought Mike was awesome. I love his respect and admiration for Jack Parker, the legendary coach at Boston University. And congrats to BU and Jay Pandolfo, the Jack Parker clone, for winning their first game against Harvard. And congratulations to Greg Brown and the Boston College Eagles winning their first game against Northeastern. Both those teams move on to the Beanpot Final next Monday, which will be great. We'll be at West End Johnnies to cover that off, and both those teams deserve to be in the final. They both played really good games in the semifinal, both of them.
They did. They just seem to be on a mission from the opening face-off. Quickly, Pierre, before we move into some of today's NHL news, there was only one game last night. Ottawa again taking care of business. They're on a roll. Yep. Of what we think is a really, I guess I don't know what the word would be. Not a good team right now in Nashville. Things are tough right there, but Ottawa, give them credit. They're on a roll. They found a way to keep winning. But quickly going back to Johnny too, because I was thinking, like, as you said, he's cultivated so many relationships. Did you know when you were traveling the NHL, whether it was as a coach or as management, did every city sort of have that one guy that kind of knew where to send you, whether it would be restaurants or bars or just good spots to get away from the crowd? Because he seems like he's that guy in Boston.
100%. And that is so good that you brought that up. I know Brian Travers, who's no longer with us. He was the guy in Montreal that you would know, and he would show you around.
Yeah.
Ben Foreman in Pittsburgh was a legendary clothier and a very good friend of Scotty Bowman's. And if you needed to go to a baseball game, he knew the people would get tickets for. If you wanted to go to a good place for dinner, he would be able to get your reservation. So every town kind of had that kind of a person. They all didn't own bars like Johnny does. So that, right. And a lot of them weren't even in the sports business. They just got to know the guys around the team. They just were fans. Yeah. But they got to know them, and then you started to trust them. So mostly in every city, I could say there was somebody that I had that was a conduit that could get you into a good restaurant or tell you, hey, you should go see that show tonight, or this is the best way to get to that place. So there was always one of those guys.
Yeah, because he was telling me a lot of the athletes when he was working at Fenway as security, that, when they would come to town, they'd be like, hey, so-and-so said you know where to go. And he was always that guy. So great. Good stuff. Hey, Pierre, so just, as I said, only one game last night, ton of games tonight. We'll get to that later. 14 games.
14
slate.
of them, Jimmy. 14 games tonight.
Amazing. Yeah, it's going to be a great night of hockey. And we are also going to talk some Calgary Flames in a bit. Eric Francis, our good friend from Sportsnet in Calgary, will join us. But Pierre, tough news out of Dallas breaking.
Miro Heiskanen, we talked about it the other day.
One of your favorite players in the NHL that you rightly point out all the time is very underrated and does not get enough credit. Miro Heiskanen out month to month after knee surgery. That is a blow for the Dallas Stars.
It is, and it took place in a Dallas-Vegas game. And Mark, I can tell you right now, Mark Stone's not a dirty player, and Mark Stone's an honorable competitor, and he plays hard. And there's blood there, bad blood between Vegas and Dallas, and has been for a long time.
There's more now.
Now there's a lot more.
Yep.
But was that an unorthodox play? Mark Stone hitting Heiskanen? Absolutely, Jimmy. That was an unorthodox. That looked more like a football play than a hockey play, and it's kind of like the Ryan Hartman thing on Timmy Stutzla. That wasn't a hockey play. That, to me, that looked like a WWE wrestling move. It did. It didn't look like what you'd see in a face-off. That looked like a wrestling move to inflict pain and punishment. And so, the thing with Stone on Heiskanen looked more like a football play than it did a hockey play to me.
Yeah, and 10 games, by the way, for Ryan Hartman. No supplemental discipline.
Jimmy, how about that, though? Everybody, it's only 10 games. It's $500,000. It's $487,000.
It hits hard, whether people want to admit it or not. It does. I agree with you on that, Pierre. But I look at that Dallas defense right now. We already saw Jim Nill, who was active last weekend, go out on, I think it was Saturday. He went out and got Granlund to shore up the center position with Sagan out. Do you think he's looking now to make him?
Cody Ceci.
Yeah, that's that depth move that we were talking about going back and forth. Maybe that comes. He's no Heiskanen, but he's at least a body still in. Yeah. But you think he goes out and targets a top four if there's any available?
Well, it depends. He would know more than any of us about where Miro is long term, but I think at some point he might have to. Just like I think Toronto might have to do that. We're going to talk to a real smart hockey guy from Calgary, Eric Francis, and they got a guy there that a lot of people are talking about, and I want to hear because Eric's really plugged in. He's really good boots on the ground in Calgary. Like to hear. It's kind of like when we talked to Rick Dollywall out in Vancouver, same kind of thing.
Yes. Who will be on with us next week, by the way.
Oh, good. Way to go, Jimmy. But they give you the straight goods, you know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to hearing what Eric has to say about Rasmus Andersson.
Let's bring him on right now. Eric Francis of Sportsnet joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Eric, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, boys. How are you?
We're great.
We're always good when you're on. We're good.
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind.
We're good. We're good. What's going on with Rasmus Andersson?
Well, he's been playing really well. He's the number one defenseman, legit now in the league. You want to know whether he's staying in Calgary? Is that the question?
That's the question. That's the question.
Well,
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, you know, he says all the right things. I've had a lot of talks with him. I actually spoke to his father today in Europe, Peter Andersson. He played internationally as well. And he thinks, the first thing he says is, well, it is a business. And, boy, I heard that from a lot of guys last year before they left Calgary. But he does like it here. But I also heard that from a lot of guys before they left Calgary last year. So, listen, guys, like with this cap going up, like what's a number one defenseman on a team go for now as a UFA? Like, is it $11 million a year times 8 years? Is it 12? Is it 13? Is it 10? Like, your guess is better than mine, but it's going to be pricey. So all I'll say is this. I think the desire's there. I think they've empowered him to understand that he is so important to this franchise. And I think that means a lot to him. He's really taking that to heart, taking his game to another level this year. And I think that, it would be a powerful message in this marketplace that someone finally says, you know what, I want to stay here and be part of the future moving forward, because I think it is a good future. They are moving in the right direction. They got a new building here in 2027. You got a competent GM. You got stability at the coaching position, and you got a ton of young guys who are really starting to make their mark. So, but that said, it's minus 26 degrees right now Celsius. I get it. There's greener pastures out there, boys. I get it.
Yep.
Hey, but you know what the good news is? He's a Swede, and he played junior in Windsor. So, like, everything's terrible. Okay?
He's used to it.
He kind of gets it.
Yeah, he gets it.
Just, you talk about the team, obviously in a good place right now, in a place that I don't think anybody expected. Is they're in a playoff position right now, Eric. The GM, Craig Conroy, goes out and pulls that trade last week, and they're not rentals. They're young guys, relatively young, in their prime still, that could still find their way in Calgary. Brings in guys like that. What does that signify to the team and the market when he goes out and pulls a trade like that?
Yeah, and he's rewarding the players, and they should be rewarded for this season they've had. He's a former player, so he gets that the message from the GM is important. The other thing to me is that, this general manager has come in. He was a rookie. A lot of people weren't sure he could do the job. Too nice a guy, maybe, right? Yep. But he's laid down a blueprint, said everything I do moving forward for the next little while is going to be with the future in mind, while also trying to be competitive and create a winning culture right now. Not many teams have pulled that off and won a cup. And I'm not sure a cup's ever, going to happen in a city like Calgary, but he's done it. And there's a lot of people in this city who want to be on Team Tank. They're pissed off that the Flames are winning right now and are going to cost themselves a good draft pick this year. But the reality is he's done a great job balancing 1 foot into this year and another foot into next year and beyond. So that trade satisfied both. And if he would have gone against his word and got a 37-year-old rental or a 32-year-old rental, that would have been counter to everything he said, and it would have eaten up a spot for a young guy who, he's been bringing in young guys like crazy over the last 2 years, and tons of them are paying off. Connor Zary, Martin Pospisil are cornerstones of this franchise. A year and a half ago, nobody knew who they were in this city. So he's given them a shot, and they've made good on it.
Don't forget that kid from Harvard, Matt Coronado. He's pretty good, too. I know the last time we were on together, I was telling you about him, speaking to his virtue as a player. But all that being said, can I sell you on a Coach of the Year candidate? Can I try to sell you?
Let's go.
Ryan Huska.
Well, I just wrote a column talking about how great he's been, but I'm stopping short of calling him Coach of the Year. Listen, in the conversation,
I said candidate.
Candidate for sure, right? I mean, you can't argue with what Spencer Carberry's done. I mean, they weren't given a chance to make the playoffs, and they're leading the bloody league right now. So, Carberry, Dean Evison. I mean, they're
Johnny Hines.
There's a lot of guys this year. Like, it's pretty cool. If Rick Tocchet can find a way to turn that circus into a playoff spot in Vancouver, Maybe he's in the conversation. Like, so, but the point, I know what your point is. Like, kudos. Again, the organization took a big chance on Craig Conroy and Ryan Huska. And Conroy comes in as a rookie and stakes his reputation on Huska to hire him right away when there were other more, veteran coaches out there. And that took some stones as well. So the two have grown together. They work together really well, which is so important. We watched for years here, Treliving and Daryl Sutter. They didn't even talk. He'd call someone up from the minors and say, Daryl, I need you to play this kid, Jacob Pelche. And he'd say, I'm not playing that kid. He's not ready. Nowadays, they're bringing a kid up and he's saying, look, I really need to see what we got in this kid. Can you put him in a great situation so that maybe he could succeed and we could see what we got moving forward? Why wouldn't you work like that? But it didn't happen here for a lot of years. Ryan Huska, breath of fresh air. And I'll tell you, like those two guys from Philadelphia, imagine being in Philadelphia.
Morgan Frost and Farabee. Oh, I know.
You know where I'm going with this. They've been
I
dealing for years with John Tortorella. And, there was lots of talk over the years that they just weren't seeing eye to eye, which is a common theme when you're playing for Torts. And now they come to play for one of the most player-friendly coaches in the NHL, a guy who has standards, though. I mean, don't be mistaken in thinking he's a pushover. You have standards that you better adhere to, or else he's not going to respect you back. So those two guys are pretty happy right now, I'm pretty sure.
Hey, Jimmy, just to build off of Eric's point, in 2002 and 2003, when I was doing the national games on TSN with Gord Miller, we'd go out west a lot, like once every week. We'd either be Edmonton, Calgary, or Vancouver. And whenever we were out there, I would fly into Kelowna on off days and run the practices for Mark Habscheid. And one of the assistants for Mark was Ryan Huska. And he was on the ice. And I said to Mark Habscheid one day when Ryan wasn't there, we went downtown for a sandwich or something. And I said, that guy's really good. Like, I know he just got out of playing, but that guy's a really good coach. And he said, yeah, I think he is a good coach. And now here he is. What is it, 20 some odd years later, 24, 25 years later, the guy's a head coach in the league and he's kicking butt. Eric, I think he's doing an outstanding job. I really do.
I think he is too. And think about, Pierre, how many guys in your career you've seen, they are the assistant coach at an organization for 3, 4. He was there 4 years an assistant. And they asked him to go from being good cop to being not so good cop as the head coach, I've seen lots of guys, Jimmy Playfair, other guys who couldn't figure it out. Players don't respect him. The guy changes his stripes. Nobody likes it. Right. He found that transition seamlessly. And I think it all builds, it's all a product of him showing them respect, him earning their respect. It's mutual. It's kind of a beautiful thing to watch.
So well said. Really well said.
All right. I'm going to propose another award candidate, and I've got him right there. I don't care what anyone says. He's in the top 3, and that's Dustin Wolf, Eric. I mean, is this guy just exceeded expectations? I imagine they knew the skill that he had, but did they feel that he was going to arrive this fast?
I don't know. It's funny. I ran into Brad Treliving today who, drafted Wolf. And I said, did you see this happening this fast? He said, oh yeah, I did. And then he stops. He goes, well, you never know. But he said, at every level, the kid just kept defying the odds. So at some point, not when he drafted him, that was a 7th round hope shot. But when he was kept winning goalie of the year 4 years in a row, it was a pretty good sign that this kid was not going to be denied. And look, I'm glad to hear guys out east say that he should be in your top 3. I think it's pretty obvious now he's past Mitchkoff. I mean, the bloom's off that
he's
road.
He's past Mitchkoff.
Right? Lane Hutson's having a hell of a year, and Celebrini's going to be a stud for a lot of years. But here's the way I'll answer it. Obviously, Wolf's got my vote, certainly in the top 3. But it's like the Hart Trophy. It's not the most valuable player in the league or the best player in the world. It's the player adjudicated to be the most valuable to his team. They don't have that same specification for the Calder Trophy, but if they did, the rookie that's had the biggest impact on his team, there's the no-brainer. Dustin Wolf has translated a team that shouldn't be even on the periphery into a playoff spot for now, and he's the biggest reason why they're there. Celebrini's had an impact on his team, but they're still the San Jose Sharks, and they're still many years away. And Lane Hutson's done a great job too, but he's not transformative. Dustin Wolf has been transformative. That's a pretty good argument.
No, that's good. I like what he just said there, Jimmy. That makes a lot of sense, Eric. Eric, you got to help us out. You're the voice of reason on this. Why did they fall out of love with Kuzmenko?
because he wouldn't shoot the damn puck. Like, I watched this kid in warm-ups and practices, and I'm going to say this. I've been doing this 30 years. There aren't many guys with a more impressive skill set. Like, if you just see a guy tooling around, reminds me of Kent Nilsson. You know, they always said he was one of the Magic Man, one of the most skilled guys ever, but never really rose to be a superstar because he couldn't figure it out up here. Kuzmenko is a magician, but he's far from being a genius. You know, all they said to him, shoot the damn puck. Like, he had 39 goals 2 years ago, guys. He doesn't know how to play defense. He doesn't know how to play systems, and he won't shoot the puck. Like, they're at wit's end. Like, I'd be pretty surprised if he's in the NHL next year. That's incredible to say for a guy who 2 years ago had 39 goals as an NHL rookie. But with that toolbox he's got, I'm not sure he's worth taking a chance on. To me, if I'm him, I go back to the KHL, make $3 million a year. No one bugs me. I don't have to come past my own blue line. Score 40 goals and life's easy.
Yeah. The other one that went in that trade with Jacob Pelletier, you wrote a great story about the relationship he had with the late Chris Snow there, Eric. If you could just, you don't have to go through the whole story, but just sum that up for our viewers and listeners, because I think it's important to know, because from afar, and you'd be able to tell us more, he seemed like he really fit in with that dressing room. He seemed like he really enjoyed being a Calgary Flame, and he obviously was pretty upset when they moved him.
Yeah, he was sobbing, that night. They traded him in game, and anyone who ran into him had water all over them. He was sobbing like crazy. It's a nice departure in this market where so many guys have wanted out. And not because they didn't like Calgary or the organization. It's a first-class organization, and I think it's one of the best cities in the world. You'll never meet a prouder Calgarian. But I get it. The grass is greener. The money's bigger in other cities. So people leave. But it's really nice to see a guy who was just crushed at the prospect of leaving this organization, this city, and all the people who he worked with. Like, it's a beautiful thing. And this city, I'll tell you, they're cheering for him more than anybody in Philadelphia. Chris Snow, good Boston guy, assistant general manager here. When he was head of analytics, he talked Brad Treliving into drafting Jacob Pelletier in the first round, I think 26th overall in 2019. And, it took a little bit of convincing because he's an undersized winger. And, they took a chance on him. And it was all because of Chris Snow. And that relationship between that family and that player grew and grew over the years. And when they traded him, that really hit the Snow family hard. Little Cohen Snow, 13 years of age. I see him every day. Plays with my son now. Good little player, actually. And he texted Craig Conroy right away, like, "What are you doing, Pelt? Why are you doing Pelt?" I love that he had a pipeline right to the GM. And Craig's response was like, "I know your dad would kill me, but business is business, and it had to be done." And let's not forget, at the end of the day, Pelletier really only been an established NHLer probably for the last month. Other than that, he was just kind of trying to prove himself. And I think he has to a degree. I'm looking forward to seeing him do it in Philadelphia with more minutes and more opportunity.
Cohen's going to be like a GM soon if you don't watch out, huh?
That's right. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And the quote from Kelsey is Chris Snow's wife. He died from ALS. Yeah. Chris Snow did. Sorry, I didn't tell the story very well, but he died a year and a half ago from 4-year battle of ALS. The whole world kind of watched him battle valiantly right to the end. And she said, when someone in your life dies, all you really want is for the impact they had in this world to be remembered. And Jacob Pelletier was kind of one of those last threads. And so it meant the world to her that Jacob, on his way out, put out an Instagram post and said in the media to me that, he's thinking about Chris Snow on this day because he's the reason that he's in the NHL and that he was a Calgary Flame and had all these great years as a Flame. So what a beautiful tribute for him to pay to the family and to Chris Snow. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Eric, listen, I know you got another interview coming up, so we're going to let you go, but we appreciate you taking the time. Always good to see you.
Boys, don't be shy. Call anytime. It's cold
Thanks,
here.
Biggie. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We'll talk soon.
All right. Eric Francis joining us here on Sportsnet. And yeah, that was a great story. I urge everyone to check it out. It's up there right now. You just type in Eric Francis Flames on Google and that story will come right up. So class act there.
But said about Kuzmenko.
Yeah. I mean, Pierre, that kid came guns a-blazing into the NHL, and then it's just been like this.
I can tell you, I went overseas to go watch him. and I couldn't get a visa to get into Russia. So, like, he was on the radar, and I think we could have probably matched Vancouver's offer at the time.
Yeah,
but I couldn't get into the country, and wasn't doing that sight unseen. Like, TV is one thing and video is one thing, but you need to be there. But that's, he's been in almost 4 years now, 3 teams.
And now he's going to that situation there in Philly there. I mean, I guess, because of the history between him and Mishkov, maybe they're hoping he can kind of, I don't know, serve as an intermediary between Mishkov and Tortorella, because that has not been a good relationship so far.
Why did people think it was going to be? Listen, the one thing I'll tell you about John's not going to sacrifice his standards. Like, John has standards. He doesn't care whether you're, he doesn't care. I won't tell you the player, but I was just with one of his old players, and I was doing a Ranger Flyer game, and one of his old players was on the bench sitting right next to me when I was working. And Torch gave him holy heck, like you can't believe, because he didn't block a shot, and he rode him hard. And the guy's like, get a load of this. I said, don't talk to me, dude. I don't need him yelling at me. You take care of your own business. And, I mean, John's got standards, and if you don't measure up to his standard for you, then you're not going to enjoy going to the rink. I'll tell you that. Yeah,
and look, I know he's a controversial topic sometimes, but I look at it this way, for people that say he needs to be done, he can't be a coach in the NHL anymore. Why does he keep getting hired?
First of all, that's not true. I'm so tired of people saying, oh, the game's passed these guys by. I'm telling you right now, Joel Quenneville, put him on a bench right now.
Oh, wow.
Put Joel Quenneville and tell me that the game has passed him by.
Yeah, we won't be able to.
91-year-old Scotty Bowman on a bench right now and let him coach games. No practices, just games. Don't tell me the game has passed him by. I'll tell you right now, and Eric knows the relationship between Treliving and Sutter probably wasn't great. Daryl Sutter could still coach games today.
Oh, yeah.
Our friend Mike Keenan could still coach games today. I like to think I could still manipulate a bench today. If you watch enough and you study trends, and that's what coaching is, you're studying trends all the time. Every one of the coaches we have that come on here, the older guys, and we'll get Joel Quenneville on next week. Joel, come on next week.
Okay.
When all those old coaches, all you say is, so what's one trend you're seeing in the league? They all have something different, but they all pick out a trend because there are different trends in different leagues or different organizations. There are. And they all pick something up because they watch some teams more than others, but they pick it up.
Wow. I'm with you on that, Pierre. I mean, look,
how is Joel Quenneville not coaching in the league? Please don't be that writer that writes, oh, by the way, the game has passed him by.
I wouldn't be, Pierre. You've taught me well, and I wouldn't. But I'm just saying, like, I'm with you. I think it's unfair when, people don't look at the body of work. And as I said, like, you gotta take a step back, regardless of what you think of Tortorella, and say, well, there's got to be something good going on there. There's got to be something that makes him keep getting jobs. And, who knows? He might be out of a job after this season. I have no idea, but I'm just speaking in the present. He is still the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. And furthermore, I have no problem with him, being tough on a young player, as long as he lets the player know, look, I'm here to help you. I'm here. And I know he does that. I've spoken to his former players. I've spoken to current players there. He does that. And it's just the way I get it's a different generation, but I don't think he should change. I think he needs to be himself, and the players need to adapt to him. That's the way I look at it.
Well said. We agree.
All right. Let's talk about our wonderful sponsors right now, Pierre, before we get to the Q&A. TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces, and delivering a peace of mind for no obligation customs or freight quote. Contact sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Let's get over to our other sponsor, Betway. They're going to be busy tonight with 14 games on the slate in the NHL. You can go right now over to Betway still and go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan that QR code right in front of you there, or go to the details section on the website. and create a new account. This offer is only available for new customers. It is not currently available in Ontario. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus and you must play responsibly. Let's go to my sick pick of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
Well, Pierre, Marc-Andre Fleury will go into another city and play his last game there unless by some miracle the Boston Bruins and the Minnesota Wild end up in the Stanley Cup final. He is at TD Garden starting tonight for the Wild. Wild coming off a game where I think you and I said before, and we agreed after, it was just one of those games you look in the schedule and say, this might be a clinker. They might hit a wall here. And, they're coming off the emotional win in Montreal. They stayed in Montreal that night. And, I'm guessing they celebrated their teammates' big win in his home province for the last time. And then they took the train to Ottawa and they got waxed. It's 6-0. It happens. It's just part of the schedule. That's why I love them to bounce back, because I don't think this is something where maybe the coaching staff says, oh, it's just part of the schedule. They probably let them have it. I know they had a spirited practice over at Boston University yesterday. I saw pictures of Marc-Andre Fleury there. Looks like, he's, as always, mingling with the fans and signing autographs. The guy's such a class act. I like him to go into the TD Garden tonight and stonewall the Bruins just as he did the Canadiens. I'm going to take him over 29.5 saves. You can get that right now for -110. I like him to have a solid game, and I also like the Wild to win on the money line. And then I'm looking at the New Jersey Devils, who go into Pittsburgh tonight. Devils seem to score a lot when they're in Pittsburgh. So give me the Devils team total over 3.5 for -110, and give me the Devils puck line at +160 as they will beat the Pittsburgh Penguins by 2 goals. Those are my picks of the night. Pierre, Minnesota, I'm interested in watching that game. I'll be watching it closely too. I do think they bounce back, but that's another team, Pierre, before we get into Q&A. Do you feel like me that Billy Guerin is going to be active here on the trade front?
I do. I do think they'll be active, partly because I think they need to be. Mm-hmm. And secondly, because I think they're playing with house money and they realize they got a chance to do some damage.
Yep.
Especially if Kaprizov comes back 100% and can really play. And I know people are mad at Hartman for what he did to Stützle, and they should be. That was not appropriate. And I like hard hockey as much as the next guy. That's not hard hockey. That's a different element to hockey that shouldn't exist.
Yep.
So he gets 10 games off. He'll get a good break, and that break's going to help him, and it's going to help the team. Yep. So I do think that Billy will be aggressive going into the deadline. They got some assets too.
Yeah,
they do. They've got assets that people really aren't familiar with yet. I know a lot of their younger players, and I think they're good. I'm glad you brought up Johnny Hines bringing his team to BU. He's a proud alum, obviously, and I just wonder, Guerin's a Boston College guy and Hines is a BU guy, so I'm kind of wondering how that went along, rather than Johnny taking his team up to the heights, up to BC and letting them practice there. Yeah. So I don't know how that played out. But
they're going to have some bets going next Monday for sure.
Next Monday night, the Eagles and the Terriers will be battling it out. Pretty good showdown.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's get to that Q&A. What do we got? Energized. Energized. Although he may not be putting up a lot of points, what does a seasoned vet like David Perron do for that Sens locker room? Great question there, Energized. I'll let you take this one, Pierre.
I know. I've known David a long time. He's a good person. He's really a solid player. He can produce power play points, I think, right now more than anything else. You got he and Claude Giroux, obviously, that are veteran guys. It's one of the things that I was trying to work on when I was in Ottawa. Is to bring in a stabilizing veteran player to work with Brady Tkachuk, to work with Jake Sanderson, to work with Shane Pinto, to work with Timmy Stützle, to work with Jake Batherson, to work with Josh Norris, who's now injured again, which is really unfortunate. Josh is such a good kid and a good player. But we tried to do that, just didn't have the budget, or maybe some of my thoughts fell on deaf ears. I don't know. Anyways, I think it's a good idea, and I think David helps. It doesn't hurt.
All right, and I agree with that too. And off air, we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, though, Pierre. For some reason, I'm remembering a great interview you did with him when he's with St. Louis the year they beat the Bruins. I'm going to try and find it.
He's great. Hey, by the way, tomorrow, don't forget the great Brian Burke's on tomorrow.
Oh, yes, that's right. We're really excited about that.
Hey,
Brian
Brian
Burke joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Looking forward to that. He's always fun to talk to. All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky, what can the Blue Jackets do to survive all these injuries? Oh, my gosh. They just got more on Sunday night. That game was brutal for them. Yes, Marchenko is out now long-term with a broken jaw.
Werenski's not playing.
He's out. He's not playing tonight. It's, you keep saying, okay, that's it. It's admirable what they've done. They've overcome so much, starting with the beginning of the season and the horrible loss of Johnny Gaudreau. And yet somehow they keep pulling it out. But, I mean, they're human, Pierre. Sooner or later, it's like.
No, this is probably the reality time.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, though. We talk about goal differential all the time. This is an important one for you. There are two teams right now in playoff positions, and you can look it up on the standings now just to make sure I got it right. Detroit's one of them, and they're in the East, and they're the only one that's a minus differential. And when you go out west and you look at Calgary's the only minus goal differential in the West that's in a playoff spot right now. But if you look at the teams just behind chasing them, it's pretty amazing how tight they are. And so I think that watch that's the big number. If you're big on the number stuff, watch the goal differential week to week. You don't have to watch it day to day. Just watch it week to week and see if somebody's losing steam or if they're gaining steam. And if you're gaining traction on the goal differential and you're chasing, chances are you're getting in the race pretty quick.
Well, the team 1 point behind them with 2 games in hand right now, of course, is the Tampa Bay Lightning, Pierre, and great point by you because
plus
they
36.
Plus 34. Plus
34, okay, plus 34. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's when you talk about Columbus, and I don't listen. If you're watching this in Columbus, Jimmy and I think the world.
Oh, we're cheering for you.
we respect you a ton, but that's what scares me. If I'm watching that number and I'm going, okay, Tampa's got those games in hand, and they're at a plus 34, and the other guys are what, a minus 9, Jimmy, or minus 6?
Yeah.
I don't even know. They're a minus. I know. So it's part of it. You got to pay attention to.
For sure. All right, next question. Sportsnet on 130. Booing national anthems before sporting events with 4 nations coming up. Should they do away with the anthem? Is it a political play, not a country thing? We don't want to really get into the politics going on right now. I know it's a sensitive topic, but I've never understood, and I've seen it in Boston. I think I have vented about this before on this podcast, Pierre, booing a national anthem, because hockey is, maybe besides soccer, the most international sport out there. So like I get so mad at Bruins fans when they would boo when they play in the Canadiens or the Maple Leafs during the anthem, because it's like, hey, look at your roster. Hello, like half of them are Canadian. Like I never understood that. It's not a good look either way. I get what's going on in the world today, but this is why we have sports, to be an escape. So let's escape from that. Enjoy the games.
Well, I can say this because I'm a proud passport holder from both countries, and so are my children, and so is my mom, so is my late father, so are my brothers and my sister. And a lot of our friends are the same. We're very blessed. We're very fortunate. And when I'm in Canada, I'm proud to say I'm from Canada. When I'm from the United States, I'm proud to say I'm from the United States. But I want to throw this at hockey fans for 1 second, because Jimmy made a good point. And Jimmy knows I hate talking politics. So I'm not talking politics. I'm talking real stuff.
Yep.
Vancouver's captain is an American, Quinn Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
Calgary's captain is a Swede, Michael Backlund.
Mm-hmm.
Winnipeg, this is the trick question that nobody will figure out. Winnipeg's captain is Adam Lowry. Most people will say he's Canadian, and he probably will too. He's born in the United States. He's an American passport holder as well as a Canadian passport holder. Austin Matthews is a captain of a Toronto Maple Leaf team. Brady Tkachuk is a captain of the Ottawa Senators. So you got 7 teams in Canada. You got a guy in Edmonton, and you got a guy in Montreal, Suzuki, and a guy in McDavid. And 2 of the 7, the rest of them are not from Canada.
Yep. Yeah. So there you go. I mean, and that's what I love about this sport, is how international it is. And I've always found, we'll get right to the next question, but another thing I've always loved about it is just how so many different nationalities, Pierre, and you've probably seen it firsthand when you're coaching, from different areas of all over the world can somehow come together as a team and become teammates and put all that aside. That's what I think is one of the most amazing things about hockey, and that's what should be celebrated right now.
One of the coolest things I ever had the honor to do is to coach a player, and most fans will never know him. You have to go look it up. Igor Chibarov. He's a Russian player. Had him in Hartford. He didn't play a long time, but he was an amazing person. His understanding of the English language was not great. He would get extremely nervous if you raised your voice around him, and so that taught me not to with him in particular. Just an awesome human being. I couldn't think of a better guy, and he could barely speak the language, but I consider him just as much of a pro player as any of the North Americans that I had the honor and privilege of coaching. I love the guy.
There
you
you go.
see that, sir, Jimmy? Igor?
Do you know the spelling, Pierre? Because the one I keep coming up with.
Chiberov, I believe. Chiberov. They would have been on the 93, 94 Whalers. What a great kid.
Yeah,
He didn't play a lot, but he was there.
Yeah. He's not coming up in Hockey DB for some reason.
Really?
He keeps directing me to a kid that's a 2001. So
No,
we'll try and find it later.
Yeah,
But
I'm going to try to find. I got to get that because he's an awesome kid. But I'm just. It's for those people out there. Like, I get it. He's Russian, but it didn't matter to me. Like, he was an amazing guy.
Yeah.
You know, just an amazing, amazing guy. And he would get nervous. Like, if you raised your voice, you could see he'd almost start to shake. And I was like, okay, I can't raise my voice around. I get it. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, what should the Sabres do at the deadline? I honestly just don't know. I just don't know who you trade and what you're looking for at this point. Very disappointing. Good question, Alex. I know there's some reports right now that, and I forgot to bring that up with Eric Francis. There's a lot of reports today that they are heavy on Cousins. Yeah, the Calgary Flames. We keep hearing his name, Pierre, and as I keep saying to you, every time I hear a trade rumor with him, why are they in such a rush to trade a guy like Dylan Cousins?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I haven't. I mean, I read the stuff you're talking about, but I don't know. Buffalo, to Alex's point, I don't know what they want to do. Like, you're starting to build a defense. I know people are going to say, well, they're not tough enough. They're not this. Okay, and I know people are upset about the stuff with Stefan Nason and Tage Thompson. I understand that. I get it. So that's one of the things they think they need to address, which I would agree with, and I would never dispute that, especially in a town like Buffalo. But I don't know what I think they're starting to get better on defense. I think they're starting to get more firepower. I think they're starting to understand their roles a little bit better as a group. They got some great goaltending stuff happening. Long term, I think Devin Levi is going to be real good down the road, and you know, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's a good goalie. Like, he's good. So I don't know what they're going to do there. Buffalo's an interesting one. I don't know.
You know, it's interesting too, Pierre. It might change now with Thompson hurt. But they were starting to score in bunches. I mean, starting with that, blowout they had, was it 7-2 over the Bruins last Tuesday, a week ago. They've been scoring a lot. So, yeah, I'm interested. Like, that's one of the teams that I feel like to be more active in the off season. Like, let's see what these guys do. Let's see where they go from now, and then, reevaluate when we get there. All right, next question. Energized. Should Travis Green get some recognition for Jack Adams? He's got the boys buying into his system and has the potential to snap Ottawa's 7-year dry streak of no playoffs. Energized. It's a good point. I mean, there's so many good coaching stories this year, Pierre.
I would have Travis in the discussion for sure.
Yeah.
Just like, what happens if Montreal?
I'm glad I'm not voting.
what happens if Montreal wins tonight in San Jose and wins in LA?
Yeah.
And then,
why not Marty
comes home and beats Jersey and Tampa on that traditional Super Bowl home and home weekend, or back to back, I should say, at home. Then what? St. Louis got to be back in the Coach of the Year conversation. Has to be. So I mean, this thing's so fluid.
It's going to change a lot before we get there. One thing I want to say, and by no means am I saying he should be Coach of the Year or he's even in the running right now, but I want to get, and I'm not just saying it either because he's a friend of mine, but Pierre, I don't know how much you've watched of Anaheim lately. Greg Cronin's got them playing a lot better, and the young kids are starting to come through. They're starting to feel it. They're not going to make the playoffs, but it's got to be a good sign for Pat Verbeek to see these kids starting to get it and see the coach and them connecting.
Yeah, well, Mason McTavish has gone to another level. He's gone to another level, and I think part of that is Alex Killorn's been such a good leader there. He's really a good leader. And before he got hurt, Troy Terry was doing some really good things. And I watch Anaheim a lot because I like Crow, number one. But they got, I really like Leo Carlson. I think Leo Carlson's got a chance. One of Matt Cater's guys has got a chance to be really good.
I like him so much.
And he will be really good. He will be really good. They've got some stuff happening on their defense. Let's see, where Jackson Lacombe plays out long term, because I think he's got a chance to do some really good things. Minchukov, when he's healthy, we'll see what he can do. So they got some stuff going on there that's very positive. Very.
All right, next question. Sound the siren. What's up, buddy? Guys, I know Buffalo is not a news story, but what on earth has made this thing go so sideways? Oh, I think we've gone over that a lot.
Yeah, it's a hard. I mean, first of all, this is okay. There's another one. The game has passed Lindy Ruff by. No, it has not.
Yeah.
No, it is not. No, please stop. There are certain players there that just haven't evolved the way they needed to. I'm not sure the blueprint of putting the team together the way they did has really worked out very well. And they've had some injuries to some key guys at different times that obviously hurt them too. But coaching's not a problem in Buffalo.
All right.
It's not.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. There's a lot of things there. Next question. Postnet on 130. How do the Habs stop their 5-game losing streak versus the Sharks tonight? Ever since Goalie got injured, Pierre pointed that out right when he did, it was going to be a big loss. They lost that passion or gas. Hey, I think they can get out of this, but like as Pierre pointed out, I think it was yesterday or last week, they went and they had their month, and I think they came back down to earth as a lot of young teams, inexperienced teams do, and they hit a wall emotionally, physically, mentally, you name it. I mean, it just hit a wall, but they're coming out of it. I think they get out of it.
So they've been overachieving a lot for a long time, and then you compound it with the fact that you're going into the dog days of the season. You're just past the halfway point. It's a hard time to be an overachieving type of a team. It really is. You take a couple steps back. They'll get their break, and it'll come right at the right time for them. They've got 4 games left till the break, 2 on the road, 2 at home. The 2 at home are back-to-back. And then they go away. And the good news for them is a lot of guys, especially their better players, like Suzuki, like Caulfield, like Slafkovsky, like, Matheson, like Lane Hudson, they're not going to play in the Four Nations. Now, you may say to me, well, what about Laine? Laine's got to give his head a shake in terms of, I got to start to compete 5-on-5. The power play stuff we know. He's going to have to start doing it 5-on-5.
Yep, for sure. And maybe it's a good thing that he continues to play, Pierre, because he maybe can
I think it actually is a good thing. I'm with you on that. He needs to play. All
right, next question. Bert L. What value do the majority of player interviews provide to the league? Players are so vague, understandably so, and the questions seem to have obvious responses. How did you feel when you scored? I'm sorry I laugh, but this drives Pierre and me too. But Pierre really nuts. It's just like, yeah, we're with you on that, Burrell. These questions got to be better. I'm not singling any one reporter out, and I'm not trying to call my colleagues out, but they got to be.
I'm
better.
not calling the colleagues out. You know what I'm going to call out? I'm going to call out the producers of all these shows who have a responsibility. And if you feel like your talent isn't asking the appropriate questions before they all have these glorified meetings in the morning. We're going to have a meeting, a staff meeting. Come up with questions that actually function.
Yes.
So Jimmy Murphy, you just scored your first goal. How do you feel? Are you kidding?
I feel horrible. What do you
No, I feel terrible. It's the worst thing that ever happened to me. I never want to score another goal. This is the other good one now. This is the new hot one. Your team is down 2 going into the third period. How do you get back in the game? I want one of the guys, because the players that drives them nuts. I want one of the players to say, well, you're just going to score 2 more goals than they do.
It's unreal.
It is certifiable, man. And you know what? People are going to blame the talent for this. I know how this whole ship works and runs.
Yep.
The producers are guilty.
Yeah.
They're not doing their jobs.
Yep. You
And
know, I agree
dare
with you.
any producer out there. I'm looking right at you. All you producers, you know what I'm talking about. Call me up if you don't think I know what I'm talking about. How's that, Jimmy?
Yeah. That's perfect. And I want to know, too, Pierre, if they're even having those meetings anymore. Something tells me they're not. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well,
You know? And
yeah,
the other thing, too,
that could be.
is where the other thing, too, sorry, and we'll get right off this vent, but I got to get this off my chest. Adapt. If you have a set of questions that so you're sitting there and you're watching the first period, right? And you're taking notes, and all of a sudden those notes aren't applicable to the game in the current state as it heads to the first intermission or the second intermission or post game. Adapt. Come up with new notes. You can't be a robot. Things change fast in this game. Like, adapt to the situation, watch the game, and react, and go with it. You know, I just
so I'm gonna give you a little thing, okay? The new buzzword around is we're playing connected hockey.
Yeah.
Okay. If I were the questioner, I'd say, what precisely is connected? Tell me, because everybody at home says, what are you talking about? What's connected?
Yeah.
So I once did an interview with Andrew Ference, great person, as you know.
Yeah, he was always a good interview.
Great diplomat and ambassador for the game. And we were talking about Boston Strong.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, this was right after the bombing at the marathon. And I said, Andrew, what does Boston Strong mean to you? And he came up with this amazing answer.
Good question.
But it was simple. What does Boston Strong mean to you, Andrew? And it's unbelievable. I gave him this canvas to paint on, and he painted this magnificent mural that was just unbelievable. Mm-hmm. He was so eloquent. He was so smart. And I was like, I left there. I was like, I was emotional because of his answer was so good.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, so here's another one. Your team's plays a bad first period, and you got to send a star player out to be interviewed. And it's an easy question. Just say to the player, you guys look uncomfortable. Why do you look so uncomfortable? So hopefully that player's going to say they were better than us in the forecheck. We didn't back check very well. Their goalie played really well, and he's in our head. We're not doing a good job on faith. There's something there. There's meat on the bone. Yep. But if you don't ask the question, the meat's going to stay on the bone.
Yep. And the final thing, and we'll move on. Ask a question. That's the other thing, right, Pierre? When the reporter says a statement, and I love when the players or the coach will look up. Is there a question in there? I mean, ask a question. That's what you're there for. You're not there to point out the obvious and just no. It's not about you. It's about who you're interviewing. So. All right.
Can I just tell you, once I got a big spanking after a game, and I deserved it 100%. It was one of our first games at NBC, and I wanted to show the producers how smart I was. So I asked like a 30-second question, and it was with Brendan Shanahan. The interview was with Brendan Shanahan. Well, you played with this coach here, and you played for that coach there. And now you play for this coach. It was a stupid question that I had. It was stupid because it wasn't about what Brendan was going to say. It's about what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And I was totally wrong.
Yep.
And so at the end of the game, Sam Flood was a producer. Can I see you for a second? And he just let me have it. And I was like, you know what? I deserve that.
Yep.
You're right.
Yep.
You're 100% right. And I can assure you that will never happen again.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, and I don't mind it when you do, Pierre. Pierre sometimes will tell me I can be long-winded, and I know it. And Pierre will remind me not to be, and it's much appreciated because it's made me a better interviewer. All right, next question. Bert L. Any predictions for how player equipment might evolve in the future and the possible impact on the way the game is played? No one in Bobby Hull's era could have pictured the way NHLers can shoot now.
You know what? It's that, first of all, the shooting thing, Bert, spot on. And as players started to shoot the puck more and more with velocity and precision, goalies stopped playing without masks. Masks came on. And then when the curved stick came in, everybody started wearing masks. And then when, carbon fiber kicked in, goalie said to the Players Association, to the league, we got to get bigger.
Yeah.
Because these pucks hurt.
Yep.
So it's changed the equipment a lot. The one thing I know is that they're trying to make, and proportionality is the word they're using, make the equipment proportional for the player's size. So I don't know what techniques or advances they're making biochemistry-wise. There has to be some stuff that's going on. But I think eventually people will get smaller, pads will continue to get lighter, skates will continue to get lighter, sticks will be more expensive but work better. It's like golf. The technology in golf is amazing. The technology in hockey is going to continue to evolve too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love that they have all this technology and they continue to advance it. Pierre, the one thing, and I know it's not going to happen, I'm wishful thinking, but get cheaper. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, so we agree. We agree on that.
It's just too much for the families right now.
We agree 100%. You're so right. You're so right on, Jimmy.
All right, next question. Chris L. Question for Pierre and Jimmy. Christian Dvorak and Max Domi played together for the London Knights in Arizona. Do you see a trade if you're Toronto for a depth 3-4 center? Cheers. Great shows. Thank you, Chris. Not many trades we see between those two teams, but I do kind of see a fit there. I think that's a good idea.
I see a fit, Jimmy, but I would say that Toronto might try to go higher, and that's not a knock on Dvorak. I just think they'd like to get more of a 2B rather than a 3A.
Yeah, maybe a guy.
Johnny Tavares would be the 2A, so you get a 2B just behind him rather than a 3A. And then David Camp plays in a 4-hole.
Yeah.
And he's really, I talked to one of his former coaches the other day, and he said, if Camp's playing in the 4-hole, you got a really deep center ice position. I agree with that.
Yep.
Because then they can play Pontus Holmberg, Holmberg, I should say. They could play him on the wing a little bit more, and he's smart enough to do that. So Toronto's got some good stuff going. I think that's really a focus for them as a 3 center, but not Dvorak, just a little higher up from him, just a little higher.
Pierre, you've said it before, and I'll say right now, I think there's a guy in Nashville that's played in Toronto before that would look really good.
Ryan O'Reilly. I just don't know. From what I've heard is that he's not that enamored with that thought, which is unfortunate for Toronto, and also I think for Rye. But, we'll see. We'll see as we get closer to the deadline. I think there's still going to be some other players that are going to shake out on this thing.
Yeah, they're going to make some strategic moves too. I'm confident in that. All right, next question. Randy Workman. Pierre, how much does the NHL team care about the results of the AHL team?
Every team's different. The one thing I can tell you, some AHL teams can make significant money. The Hershey Bears get 10,000 people every night. The Laval Rocket, Montreal's farm team, get 10,000 people every night. The Toronto Marlies are doing unbelievably well. Coachella Valley's jammed every night. So there are a lot of different scenarios where the AHL team does matter to the bottom line of the group. I know our situation when I was in Ottawa and Belleville was an important situation for us, and we were fortunate to have the agreement we had with people, the political people in Belleville. So all those things, they matter, but they do pay attention to the results as well. We had Jeff Gordon on here, 10 days ago, Jimmy, and he talked about how important it was for those players in Laval to play playoff games, but more than one series. He wanted them to play, deep into the springtime, and I think he's right. We've talked about that on this show.
I'm with you on that. All right, next question. Randy Workman. Jimmy, if the Bruins are buyers, how surprised would you be? Randy, I wouldn't be surprised because I've seen this script before where they think they should be buyers and they buy and then they realize later that they shouldn't have been. So I don't know if I'd be surprised. I don't think they should be buyers. I'll put it that way, though. I think they need to retool, rebuild, whatever you want to call it. I think they need to start to really move towards the future, and we'll see how it shakes out there. I'm not sure. I haven't heard much. I've been really trying to dig deep. I'm hearing rumors, but nothing confirmed there yet. But once I do, you guys will know.
Speaking of teams that need and pay attention to their American Hockey League team, Boston does. Providence is a major franchise in the AHL, and they have older players. I know Vinny Lettieri's been up, but Patrick Brown.
Back down today, by the way.
Yeah. So Vinny, that's what I'm saying. So Vinny's down. Patrick Brown is there. Riley Tufte's there. You start looking at some of the players that are there. You know, Pitlick was there for a long time, an older player. They got a lot of older guys down there, and the reason why they want to win. The more you win, the more you play, the more money you bring in. And so they're always paying attention. I think a lot of teams, and Boston would be one of them. They're paying attention.
Well, I'm hoping a certain Mr. DeVoe gets a call up again to Providence.
How about Will yesterday? I thought Will was outstanding on our show.
Shout out to him.
I saw him inside the rink. Here's how good a kid he is. He went down to the Harvard dressing room after they lost, and he talked to some of the players, but he talked to some of the parents, too, of some of his former teammates. And at around, I'm going to say around 9:45, he came up to where I was sitting in the building watching the game between Northeastern and BC. And he said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" I said, "Yeah, sure." He goes, "You won't be mad at me if I take the train home now." I said, "Why would I be mad at you?" He goes, "I got to get home. I got to be in the gym at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's going to be, it's going to be late." I said, "You get your butt out of here and get up on the
Good for him.
get home." But that's just the kind of kid he is. He's such a good kid. He could have just got on the train without saying anything. But he came to say, "You sure you won't be? I'm not going to be mad at you. Get up there."
Doing your job. Good for him. Well, I'm looking forward. I'm going to go up and catch a few games there and meet up with him. All right, next question. Postnet on 130. Who would be a good Russian mentor for Demidov next year for the Habs? We spoke on this before.
Yeah.
We just don't want to start rumors. That's the problem.
No, the one thing I'd say, though, and somebody brought this up, it wasn't me, but I'll take it. And I wish I could give, credit where credit's due. I just forget who it was. Andrei Markov, why wouldn't you bring him in just to fine tune it?
Yeah.
Marky's such a good guy.
Yeah. I think actually it was one of our, I forget their name. I forget who it was, but I think it was one of our viewers here.
I apologize. I wish I remember because I want to give credit where credit's due. I just can't remember.
So, I would love it. He's great. I just remember. There you go. Enter tab. Yeah. So Pierre, I'm with you on that. And I just remember covering those teams that he was on and how much they looked up to him.
Yeah.
Like, quiet leader. All right. Next question. Ian Lewis, how much of an effect will the new cap increases have on current and upcoming negotiations? More holdouts, shorter contracts. Great show. Love to hear your opinion. Thanks a lot, Ian. I'm actually, Ian, it's funny you bring that up. And I think I told Pierre about this already, but I've been talking to a lot of different NHL executives for a story I'm working on for RG Media. And it's amazing, Pierre, the amount of different takes I'm getting. And you nailed it because when I asked you about it, I don't know if it was on here or off air, the word you said was it's going to be situational. And that's exactly what it seems like. It's going to be very situational.
So here's the problem. It's great to say the cap's going up, especially if you're in a big market. But if you're in a Canadian market and it's not that big and the Canadian dollar stays where it is, you're talking about $165 million a year on you can't do that. Trust me, it just doesn't work. I don't care what your revenue streams are. It doesn't work. So that's going to be, and that's just a salary cap. That's not your travel. That's not your rental on your building. It's just a salary. The numbers don't work. So I do think we're going to get back to super teams, just like it was in the 80s and the 90s. I think we're going to get back to super teams, and that's not a bad thing either.
Nope. You're just
not a bad thing at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for our questions here on the eye test today here on a Tuesday. I want to thank all of you for those questions and thank all our listeners and viewers as well. Thanks, Shane, working the boards up in Montreal. I'll give a shout out to the rest of the Sick Podcast crew. Urge you to all check them out. They're down in New Orleans on Press Row for the Super Bowl. How about that, Pierre, huh?
Yeah, they're in New Orleans. Good for those guys. The snow melted just in time for them to get there.
Yeah, that's right. Remember a couple of weeks ago, they were playing shinny on the streets on Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
By the way, everybody talks about all these different places for expansion hockey. I coached an expansion team in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We were getting between 6,000 and 9,000 people a night. It was unbelievable. The fans were amazing. They were amazing there. Like, I know the building's nice in New Orleans. I'm not talking about the Superdome. I'm talking about where the basketball teams plays or used to play. I'm just telling you, I would look at it. If I had enough money, I would look at it. Because it's a travel destination, just like Vegas is. 2 weeks
ago, when we saw those pictures of them playing shinny, I said, why not just explore it? And like, as you said, they're kind of in that in-between of TV markets.
Yeah, so that's the only problem.
But Yeah, why not? You know what, too? Like my cousin right now, Patrick Murphy, plays a major in the Marines, by the way. So thank you for his service. He's down there right now. He's been living there for about a year now. And he said, you won't believe how many Northerners, how many transplants there are.
Yeah.
You're going to have some hockey fans already living there. So you never know.
No, I don't think I'll go there, but it'd be one place. There's some really
great destination.
I'll tell you what, I met some really cool people. I lived there for 1 year. I owned a magnificent home. I loved it. It wasn't gigantic. It was just a nice home and a beautiful Shady Lake Estates is where I lived in Baton Rouge. My next door neighbor was Dr. Saint Amand, nicest man in the world. He and his family, great people. And they made great deer sausage. They'd have the deer hanging by the carcass on the outside. I come over. It was great. Oh, yeah, it was great.
Good stuff.
But I would like the passion for hockey. People loved it.
Oh, I've never been.
Loved it. I loved living. By the way, Jimmy, I loved living.
Yeah, I got to get down there as I want to. It's just I heard it's such a cool music scene too. Mitch Melnick's told me about it. So, all right. Anyhow, thanks you, Pierre, and again, thanks to everyone at West End Johnnies. Great time yesterday. We're going to be back there again. Pre-Bean Pot, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 138 Portland Street. And then, of course, we are heading right up to Montreal the next day, and we will be at Plains Public House 6 to 7 p.m. before every Four Nations game.
Yeah, but make sure the fans know that Tuesday we're not at McLean.
No, so on the off game day, so that Tuesday and that Friday, Valentine's Day, we will not be remote. We will just be doing it here through this system right now. So just that would be, so we'll be there Wednesday,
and
which
Thursday.
is the 12th, Thursday the 13th, and Saturday the 15th. And remember, Saturday there's a 1 p.m. matinee. So we'll be there after the first game at McLean's Public House, 1420 Peel Street. And again, thanks to Sam Adams and the Sun Cruisers there at West End Johnnies. And of course, thanks to Jägermeister up at the Public House in Montreal. Looking forward to that as well. And Pierre,
I know that I'm taking you out for dinner Tuesday. Can I talk you into maybe going to do a little visit to McLean's and visit with Stu at the Public House on Tuesday?
I think we can arrange that. I actually already have some friends, some regulars there that were asking that we do that, Pierre. So
we will do that before we go to dinner.
Trying to get the lay of the land, right?
Just to learn where we need to be.
All right, sounds good. Well, listen, as Pierre said, great guest coming on tomorrow here on the Eye Test. Brian Burke will be joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. So stay with us for that tomorrow. But until then, enjoy all the hockey tonight, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.